Hello there, and welcome to the first installment of our very special Halloween content. Every year I like to do something a little bit different, a little on theme for the channel. And, I'm thinking about Halloween, and this time of year is always about spooky fun and mischievousness. Pranking is heavily associated with the month of October, Halloween, and the month in general. You can usually expect adolescents to be out in the neighborhood doing the Halloween holy trinity of pranks. That's toilet papering the trees, ding-dong ditching, and of course, egging. These pranks are obnoxious, a little bit messy, but for the most part, they are harmless fun. But sometimes things go horribly wrong. Sometimes these eggings lead to violence, even murder. Now, I have to tell you, when I set out to make this video, I thought that I was going to be making a lighthearted, sort of fun video about adolescents getting community service for, pranking their neighbors on Halloween. But when I started my research, as I usually do, as most of us do, I went to Google and I typed in teenagers getting in trouble for egging. And the story that popped up is this ongoing case from back in the summer, actually, where 3 teens were arrested for killing a man in an egging incident. And with that, the tone of this video changed significantly from lighthearted and fun to rather somber. I ended up sort of in a deep rabbit hole about how potentially dangerous this prank can be. Now, once again, just like the last video, this is an ongoing case, so the details are slightly sparse because there are some things that they simply won't talk about until these kids go to stand trial. And of course, everything we're about to talk about right now is alleged. Nothing has been proven yet in a court of law. But on July 3rd, 2023, it was just a few months ago, in Georgia, Spalding County Sheriff's officers responded to reports of a man down in the middle of Dobbins Mill Road. When they got there, they found 22-year-old Jonathan Gilbert, who was apparently also known by the name Tyler Lane, dead upon arrival, laying in the middle of the street. He had multiple gunshot wounds, it looked like, to the chest and also to the neck. A witness named Kaylee Morgan, who identified herself as a friend of Gilbert's, actually he had been at her house. So where he was in the road, that was her house that he had come out of. She was able to give the police a sort of rundown of the incident, and she claimed that it all started with 3 people: 18-year-old Jeremy Munson, 19-year-old Mackenzie Davenport, and 18-year-old Sydney Morgan. Now, Morgan was apparently Gilbert's ex-girlfriend, and this trio showed up to the house on Dobbins Mill Road, got out of their car, and began throwing eggs at the house. As I said before, Jonathan Gilbert was actually in Kaylee Morgan's home. Apparently, Jonathan at this time had actually moved to Texas, but he had come to Georgia to visit, and Kaylee had offered to let him stay at her house. So when Jonathan saw his ex-girlfriend and a couple of friends egging this house, he ran out to confront them. The 3 teenagers ran to the car, got in the car, and as Gilbert approached the vehicle, Morgan pulled out a gun and shot him multiple times. The teens then sped off, leaving Gilbert for dead. Several people came out of their homes to be with Jonathan while he was lying there. Kaylee said that he called for help for about 10 minutes before he finally succumbed to his wounds. By the time that the police and paramedics and everything got there, it was too late. It has been reported that the catalyst for this attack was an ongoing lovers' quarrel between Morgan and Gilbert regarding Gilbert's relationship with Kaylee Morgan. Apparently, despite the fact that they were no longer together, Morgan was insanely jealous of Gilbert's relationship with Morgan and had been harassing them for the whole time Jonathan had been visiting. Now, Kaylee describes her relationship with Jonathan as best friends. But whatever the nature of their relationship was, it clearly pissed off Sydney Morgan. We don't really know if shooting Gilbert was the plan all along, although you have to wonder, why would you bring a gun if it wasn't? It does seem, and again, alleged, it does seem as though the intent of the egging was to draw Jonathan out of the house so that Sydney could attack him. We don't know that for a fact, obviously, but again, I just can't think of why you would bring a weapon to an egging unless that was your intention. At the very least, even if the other two, Jeremy and Mackenzie, didn't know that this was the plan, surely Sydney, the shooter, allegedly, had to have some inkling that this is what she was planning to do. Because we just don't know whether she told her friends what she was up to or not. It's very possible that the two of them thought that they were just going to go have a little fun harassing their friend's ex-boyfriend and his new love interest. Just a harmless prank that nobody was going to get hurt. I guess if that's your thing. But if that is what happened, then Jeremy and Mackenzie are about to get a really hard lesson in choosing their friends a little bit better. Because being with someone while they commit murder is also a crime, especially when you make no attempt to render aid, you leave the scene of the crime, and you do not go directly to law enforcement to report what happened. But according to authorities, they do have reason to believe that Jeremy Munson and Mackenzie Davenport were in on the plot with Sydney Morgan. Like I said, Sydney reportedly had been harassing this couple for several days leading up to the incident, including making some direct threats to the couple. And allegedly, after Gilbert was shot and fell in the road, Munson actually got out of the vehicle and stole a necklace that the 22-year-old victim was wearing that contained his father's ashes. Why would a person do this? Just add insult to injury and to prolong his suffering? There's no reason for that. And again, we don't know if that's true. It's just something that's been reported. But if it is true, it really boggles the mind. Listen, I'm going to pass down a little bit of friendly advice, okay? People break up, especially young people. And if somebody decides that they don't want to be with you anymore, have a good cry. Let that heartbreak sink in and then get the hell over it. No one owes you a relationship. People change their minds. They decide they want to be with somebody else. If you find yourself sitting there after a breakup, spending vast amounts of energy ruminating about the breakup and start thinking about trying to kill your ex or their new partner or yourself, do me a favor, stop, get some help. That's not normal. And if you find yourself in that position, and I say this with absolute love, you need to go to therapy because it is not normal to feel that way after breaking up with somebody. Now, young people like these are all 18, 19 years old. It can be hard, right? Because young people's brains aren't fully developed yet, and it's much, much harder. So young people, having your mind consumed with thoughts of murder to the point that you are actually plotting to kill someone, not normal. Not normal thoughts, not normal behavior. Definitely something that you need to be seeking professional help for. It's not an insult. It's genuine advice. And folks, if your friend comes to you and tries to bring you in on a plot to kill their ex because that person is seeing somebody new, lose their number. Stop. Don't talk to that person anymore. That is not somebody who you need to be friends with. Because let me just tell you what's happening to Sydney, Mackenzie, and Jeremy. All right. Investigators tracked them down using tower data from one of their cell phones. Not a single one of them came forward and said, yo, my crazy AF friend just shot somebody. Please help me. No, the cops had to go get them. All three of them are being charged with malice murder, which in Georgia means murder with intent. And I know what you're thinking, Rachel, Doesn't murder always have to be with intent? And the answer is no, not in Georgia, it doesn't. Georgia is one of the few states that doesn't have like levels for murder charges. You know, we've all seen Law and Order. We're all true crime people. So, you know, it's like there's like murder 1 and murder 2. Georgia doesn't have that. It's either malice murder, you meant to kill them, or felony murder. You didn't mean to kill them, but they died anyway due to your action or inaction. My understanding is that by Georgia setting up the court system this way, it is very prosecutor friendly. I'm not a lawyer, but it is apparently considered pretty easy to get a murder conviction in Georgia. That is the reputation of a lot of the southern states. And when you kill somebody in Georgia, they can kill you right back. All 3 of these young people could be facing the death penalty. Georgia has put 76 people to death since 1976. 1976 is when the death penalty became federally legal, and each state got to decide whether or not they had it, and Georgia decided yes. Now, Georgia's 76 people really pales in comparison to Texas, who has killed 570 people, but Georgia also has less than half their population. On top of the malice murder charge, all 3 face charges of battery and criminal trespass. Jeremy Munson and Sidney Morgan, the 2 18-year-olds, are also being charged with regular murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. These kids are 18 and 19 years old, and they are probably all going to go away, possibly for the rest of their lives. They have completely destroyed the rest of their lives. And for why? The whole thing is just so stupid. My condolences to Monica Gilbert. That's Jonathan's mother. My heart just absolutely breaks for her. No matter how old your child is, it's terrible for a parent to lose a child, especially in such a senseless crime. And as it turns out, Monica is not the only mother who has to mourn her child because of a death that started with an egging. Gloria Jackson sent a Halloween card to her son's killer every October for the 20 years he was locked up, just to tell him she was glad that he was still in prison. Curtis Sterling was just 17 years old in 1998 when he shot and killed New York City resident Carl Jackson. Carl was with his girlfriend that night. They were picking up her 9-year-old son from a Halloween party. While he waited in the car, Curtis and some of his friends started pelting Jackson's car with eggs. Jackson got out in order to confront them about it. There was some arguing back and forth. Once his girlfriend's 9-year-old was secured in the back seat of the car, Jackson got back in the car and drove away. But as he drove away, Curtis pulled out a pistol and shot through the back window of the vehicle, hitting Jackson in the back of the head and killing him. And as brutal as that is still not the only egging-related death in New York history. In 1994, a man stabbed a 12-year-old boy to death because the boy hit him with eggs as he was coming out of a New York bar. 2 years later, a 10-year-old Brooklyn boy was shot in the neck after an egging-related fight broke out on the street. The 10-year-old wasn't even involved in the fight. It was just a stray bullet that caught him. 31-year-old Joseph Padro was shot and killed in the Bronx by 15-year-old Jeffrey Ivory when Padro confronted the boy and chased him down after he believed he had thrown eggs at his car. According to an article published by the New York Times in 2010, going from that year back to 1984, there were at least 24 deaths or serious injuries due to egging-related incidents around Halloween, including stabbings, beatings, and shootings. Most of those 24 victims were teenagers. And I say at least because the police don't really keep a record of which of these crimes happened because of an egging prank. So what the New York Times did is they combed through all of the local newspaper articles during that time and just compiled a list of all the ones that mentioned egging as a catalyst. So the number is actually probably higher than that. Egging-related violence in New York at one time was so bad that in Queens, the officers of the 104th Precinct went around and asked all the local businesses, please, to not sell eggs or shaving cream to minors in the week of Halloween. Some of the stores simply hung signs in the window that said, sorry, no eggs. And this problem is not unique to the Big Apple. In 2008, in Columbus, Ohio, 16-year-old Garrett Burton, who was the son of a local police officer, was out at night egging cars. The driver of one of the vandalized vehicles shot and killed the high schooler. Unfortunately, Garrett's murder remains unsolved. 2 years earlier, another Columbus teen, 14-year-old Danny Crawford, was similarly gunned down after he and some friends had thrown some eggs at a car. Just like Garrett, Danny's case is still open all these years later. More recently, in Texas, an unidentified 14-year-old boy was out joyriding with some friends in an SUV, driving underage and throwing eggs out the window at passing cars. When one egged vehicle turned around to chase them, the boys in the SUV at least claim that the driver of that vehicle had a gun. They raced away and drove straight through a red light, striking a truck and killing the driver, 45-year-old Sylvia Zavala. Now, I know that none of these deaths were directly caused by the egg, okay? But people are scary and unpredictable at times. And when you're screwing around, accidents can happen, or you're going to confront the wrong hothead with a gun. In a country like the US, where so many people own firearms, maybe take that dozen eggs and make a really good omelet or something. And if you're one of the people getting egged, just chill out, my dude, okay? Egg washes off. It's not worth somebody losing their life over. It's not worth you going to jail because you shot a 10-year-old. And frankly, you may think that you have the right to shoot somebody who's egging your house because so many places have these stand your ground laws. But the thing is that you could be very, very wrong in that. Because to stand your ground, you have to fully believe that there is a felony about to be committed or a threat to your life or the life of somebody else. And I don't think that you can make a reasonable argument that you think a teenager throwing some eggs at your house is a threat to your life. It's certainly not a felony. And there is absolutely, it would be so embarrassing for you to get thrown in jail for killing some kid who's pulling a Halloween prank. So just calm down. Put the Smith & Wesson away. If it's becoming a habitual nuisance, call the cops, or better yet, do the old-fashioned thing and go talk to their parents. And then call the cops if their parents are a-holes. Speaking of parents, maybe parents, you need to really drive home to your teenagers the very, very possibly dire consequences of going around vandalizing other people's property. I hope that everybody kicks off this spooky season with lots of fun autumnal activities. I will be back with you next time with the story of the Greenbrier ghost. Don't miss it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't vandalize anybody's property, and do something to take care of yourself today and every day. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.